Great. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Buenas tardes, como se dice en mi casa. It's such a real pleasure to be here in Montgomery County and being able to be part of this wonderful conversation when we talk about business and empowerment and how we work with our community to rise and to be able to feel proud of everything that we have done to make this country a better place. It's an exciting time. I am so happy to be here. I drove myself up from Philadelphia today. I cover a big region. I cover Pennsylvania, the wonderful state of Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, Washington, D.C., Delaware. So my heart, though, is very much in the Latino community. So thank you so much for having me here. I'm going to give you a little bit of background, what we do at SBA. The U.S. Small Business Administration is a small agency where we actually have a tremendous reach across the world. We help small businesses like yourselves get going, started, expanding, counseling, capital, everything you need to be able to go ahead and start and grow your company. So it is an exciting time here, especially because in the Hispanic community, we've had tremendous growth. And as a former business owner, former Latina entrepreneur, we are actually that segment, that big segment of the community that is actually doing the most productions when it comes to job creation. So we're going to have a great discussion here. And I'm going to tell you a little bit as we go back and forth if there's any questions on some of the programs that we have. For example, just lately, which is something that I'm very proud of, is that we're able to cut zero fees for all loans under $150,000. That means no SBA fees, no banking fees. So that can save the business owner between 2 and 3%. Those are $150,000. I don't know, some folks, to create an application that can make a couple $1 billion might go a long way. Or to just go ahead and do improvements to your storefront or be able to hire more people. Another one that we actually announced very recently too is our Veteran Advantage program, where our loans, again under $350,000, are able to get those fees out. So no SBA fees, no banking fees. So those are the things that we're trying to do, making sure that we listen to the community, because we've heard, especially during this recession, the capital, access to capital was something really big, and we needed to go ahead and make sure that you have more capital to be able to produce those jobs. And another little part of what we do is in this area is government contracting. I have the largest portfolio in the country. We actually, as a U.S. government, are supposed to be able to give 23% of our government contracting has to go to small businesses. And within that, we have the set-asides for Hispanic, for minority-owned companies, women-owned companies, and so on. And we've actually, in this region, been able to meet that. But I think that we need to do more. That's, $100 billion across this government, across this country, to be able to for you to bid on. So that's something that we can talk a little bit later about. You can always grab my information. I'd love to talk to you about that. And a third thing is exporting. We live in a very international community. 95% of the consumers are outside this country. And we have a tremendous opportunity, especially in this area, looking at Latin America as a market, an export market, a global trade market. And we've been able to work on a really good project with the State Department, where we're having memorandums of understanding between our small business development centers here and small business development centers in America Latina. I get confused sometimes, and my language is back and forth. But so that's something that we have been, able to move forward, making sure that people felt like they could do joint ventures with companies in other countries and build that relationship, because we know better than anyone else our traditions, our language, and we understand that atmosphere. And I think it's really important for us to take advantage of the growth that we have in the emerging markets, especially in our continent. So I can go on and on about that, but I would like to please give a warm welcome to my great panel here, and I'll have them introduce themselves. But just to start, Ms. Carmen Ortiz-Larsen, President of AQUAS, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Ms. Mariana Cordier, business owner for her own law firm. Yeah. Thank you, and again, congratulations for all that you have done. And I'm going to open it up to all of you to start with your presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm told that I can click on these things, so we'll see what happens. Does that work?
There you go.
Did I just do it wrong? See?
Yeah, good.
There you go.
Okay. So my name is Carmen Ortiz-Larsen, and I'm the president of a company called AQUAS Incorporated. I started this, I started a small business a long time ago when I was 27. And it was called AQUAS Incorporated in a little bit different way. We were working with the private sector, mostly in associations. And then in 1990, I reinvented the business and focused on government contracting primarily. So I just wanted to talk about a little bit about my business as an example of a profile of a company that is run by a Latina. It has, it's a very diverse company, and it does a lot of different things. So it's a management, technology, and engineering services, and we're based in Bethesda, Maryland, here in Montgomery County. Right, so that's a lot of words, but I'm going to just tell you. It basically, I was thinking the other day about what can I say about my company. You get so involved in running your business that you have to stop and think about your impact. And so AQUAS has developed software that's in 150 VA hospitals. And it is software that allows people who have concerns about how their loved ones are being treated to record their concerns in a system so that people can follow up on it. So it's a bioethics concern management system called EC-Web. Also, we have a bioethics system set up at Harvard Medical Systems at Boston Children's Hospital. The other thing that I thought about is that every time you go buy eggs or chickens or something or poultry at the store, if it says USDA inspected, it has been handled through our computer system that's used nationally by graders. So we were pretty excited about thinking about it that way. And the same thing with meat. So we've got beef, it says premium beef. Well, chances are it's gone through our computer system as far as recording who inspected it, how was it inspected. And then the other thing that I thought was exciting when I last went to Dallas Airport and caught the airport train to my gate was to think that when those trains first came in, it was a team of 5 engineers that AQUAS put together that worked with Mitsubishi to test those trains out. And that 1/3 of the maintenance staff on those trains are people that work for AQUAS Incorporated. And the other thing is that, the second to the last one, I don't know, it's a politically controversial thing now, but we actually staff the testing and the help desk and all the calls that come in complaining how it's not working yet for the Maryland Health Information Exchange. So chances are that our folks are sitting there with a lieutenant governor trying to explain what kind of calls came in, why they can't fix it, or they can't talk to the software people and so forth. And then also when you go through and you drive through Rock Creek Park, most of those manholes have been inspected using our software. So when you think about the things that you do in your company and what impact it has, you can sit back and say, wow, did I have something to do with that? That's really good. And so you feel that what you were doing maybe is worthwhile. So that's some of the things that my company has accomplished over the last several years. So we have people in Virginia at Dallas Airport, in Ithaca, Maryland, supporting the Maryland Health Exchange. And then we have other locations. We have a couple of, well, mostly in Bethesda, but then we have some people in Texas, some people in Florida. And the other thing I took a look at is the demographics. What's the impact of having a minority person owning a company is that you tend to hire people that are very diverse. So you tend to hire a diverse workforce. It's a lot more likely. And for me, it's been an experience where I see that oops, you know what? I'm very bad at coordinating these things. Okay, so one of the things that we noticed is that our staff, 24% are over 50, 52% are between 30 and 50, 24% are 30 years younger, and then we have a pretty even distribution on ethnicity as well, which we're very proud of. And we have some interns and young people that bring in. We have, one of the things that I've done over the last few years is gotten more involved with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and with the Hispanic Business Foundation. So I've supported coming in with programs that help young people who are in high school to complete their high school in spite of their difficulties, whether those are socioeconomic difficulties, language barriers, or disabilities. So through the Hispanic Business Foundation, I've worked a lot in promoting getting other businesses involved in hiring young people who have challenges. So we do that. We also, as a business, we thought we'd practice what we preach, and we have some interns in that category as well. These are some of the ways we get our work. And we work for the public sector, in public sector procurements, federal government, state of Maryland, some other states, in Florida, California, Illinois, New York, New Jersey, and Minnesota. And we also work for municipalities, but we do work for the private sector as well. So I wanted to talk today, and I do a lot better in kind of a forum, so it's kind of sitting back a little bit. You know, a lot of the things that we've learned, we put into action, and we try to work with other people who are starting their businesses and show them what we've done. Not because it's the only way to do it, but because it's one way to do it, and we also have lessons learned. So we work with databases. We put our names in different databases where people want to know who are the small businesses around, because when large businesses have to subcontract out, most of the time they don't know where to go. So if you have a business, you might want to think about making sure that you're in as many minority databases or small business databases as you can. In Montgomery County, it's particularly important that you look at the Small Business Reserve Program, the Small Business Local Reserve Program. And I tried it out. It takes only a few minutes to get on it. It's not too complicated. Some databases are more complicated. And you get notices about a whole bunch of jobs you didn't know were there, that projects, that opportunities. So it's really worth your while. So the Small Business Reserve Program in Montgomery County, it's really a great way to know about some public opportunities. In the federal sector, it's a little bit more complex because some of the opportunities are larger. So when they say small business, you could have 1,000 employees in some categories. Mm-hmm. So what I recommend there, and what I've learned, is to become friends with different companies that might be able to partner with you in different opportunities. And so you can go and look at fbo.gov, and you see a lot of opportunities there, and you can drill down. But a lot of times when opportunities go there, people say, well, by the time you get there, you know, people have already set up teams. Well, that may or may not be true. Sometimes it's not true. A lot of times it is true. But it at least gives you an idea of what kinds of opportunities are coming out and who's asking about them, because it'll say, I don't know if it still does, it used to say, who's asking about them. And how do you get in touch with people? It gives you phone numbers and people who are the contact people for those. So if you go to fbo.gov, that's an important place to go. There are other things tools that you can have that are more expensive, that tell you more about the pipeline and what kinds of things are coming down. Those tend to be very expensive, especially for a small business. But if you are partnering with other companies, sometimes a larger company might have access to that and might be able to fill you in and might be able to tell you more about it. So networking, participating in chambers of commerce, business associations, and places like this are very important. I think that it's important to recruit the right team, the right staff. Always keep your eye on who would be great to work with, and to set up a management team as you grow. It's really important to have people that are working with you that can help you run the business. Pardon me? Oh, slides. And then you have to learn about coordinating your slides with yourself. So Hispanic-specific lessons learned. You know, Hispanics come in all walks of life, and there are different kinds of industries and businesses. Hispanics work hard and are often willing to take risks, which you need to be an entrepreneur with. I think that one of the things that I learned as a Hispanic business is that I decided to look out for professionals and engineers and business people that are Hispanic, and it occurred to me only after I'd been in business for a while that that's a really great place to go find colleagues. So, you know, you have a diverse workforce because you've had to go through that. And then also remembering that borrowed capital is debt and it's not an asset, so use it wisely. And train yourself to check where you are against where you want to be so that you can have a plan and follow through with it. And that's as far as I'm going to go, and I think we're going to be available for questions later. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Carmen. Appreciate that.
Okay, I'm Mariana Cordier. I am an attorney. I opened my own law firm in the end of 2000. So we have been in business for quite a long time. One of the unique aspects of the firm is that I'm originally from Argentina, born there, and but did all my education here. My brother, who's in the firm with me, also is fluent in Spanish, born in Argentina and here. I have one other attorney who is from Colombia. She was born there, raised here. And I have a Korean lawyer who is born here and raised here but speaks Korean. So we are a diverse law firm, and we deal mostly with a diverse community, and we're very proud of that. We were born from the need of the community. I was a partner in another firm, and I kept getting all the Spanish speakers. Hey, we can't talk to the client. Can you talk to her? I don't know what she wants. I don't know what she's saying, or whatever. And by word of mouth, the client base grew to such an extent that I decided to branch off and go off on my own. And that's how Cordier Law Offices was born. And been grateful and thankful every day. But before I start with my presentation, I will say one thing. For those of you thinking about opening your own business, and reminding those who do have their own business, it is not a 9-to-5 job. This is 24/7. It's your baby. Consider it your child that is never going to leave home. So you're stuck for life, or as long as you want the business. But one of the things that I found that's a characteristic of being successful that worked for me was leadership. What I found in my business as a lawyer, we have our associations, just like the small business associations and others. Ours, particularly with lawyers, I discovered that some of the best referrals of clients or assistance when I was, in a position where I had a unique issue and unique case that I didn't know really which way to jump, or I needed just to bounce some ideas off somebody else to kind of have that conversation to find creative solutions or tactics or strategies, was to engage in these associations and really get to know the members. At first, you think they're lawyers too. What do they care? What are they going to send me any business, right? But many of them didn't have any Spanish speaker attorneys, and they needed to help out with a client, so we joined forces. A lot like what Carmen was saying, is joining forces with another company that can help you in one way. You don't have to do it all yourself. It's okay to reach out and ask for help, or to build these relationships, because years down the line, I'll never forget, I got stuck in Mexico City's airport, and I had court the next day, and I wasn't going to make it. And everybody in the law firm had something else, and I had to call a friend and say, can you cover the case for me? And they said, sure, not a problem. And so those relationships, those assistants, are things that you really should build and have, and become in these associations, whether it's particular to your subject matter or not. Become an active member. Get to know the people that are in power. Get to know the people that can give you access to those that you may need to reach one day. You just never know when you're going to need that assistance. And also, one of the things that I think is really important and appreciated is to continue to improve what you're doing in your business. Once we open a business, whatever it is, I'm selling legal services. You think, okay, what does she do? I do criminal defense, I do family law, and I do, breach of contract, enforcing contracts. My brother does personal injury, does workers' comp. It's the same thing every day. The problems pretty much look the same. I mean, we do get the unique, problems that, because someone's from some other country or the property's located somewhere else. But for all intents and purposes, at the end of the day, the basic issues are the same. But don't get caught in a rut. Don't forget that you have room for improvement. Follow up with, seeing what the new trends are in the business, in the community. What are the trends of the needs of the individuals? Adjust your business. Don't get stuck in doing just one thing and then being surprised if that one thing no longer is producing for you in your business. You have to be current. You have to be able to tweak what you're doing. There may be opportunities that present themselves. Carmen is a fantastic example. She saw a need for the software for the poultry, tracking meat and poultry. We all eat meat and poultry. Imagine how much of an impact that had for her business. I have one thing I have to admit. We don't do immigration law, and everybody has always given us a hard time for not doing it, because we do a few things to help out in the course of applying through immigration. That's to fix your criminal cases if you have any. But we don't do immigration. Know your limits. I know I cannot be in federal court for immigration as often as I would need to be if I were an immigration lawyer. That's why many immigration lawyers only do immigration, because it's that taxing. Whereas I know I can help and guide people and get them referred to an immigration attorney, and someone good who's not going to overcharge, who's not going to treat you in a bad way, that they're going to be considerate and respectful, because that's important too. And as a business owner, you must remember to be respectful to your clients, even if they don't really deserve it, and because it happens, and also to be respectful to your colleagues and other folks that are your competition, because in the long run, it will never fail you, and you may be surprised that one referral, that one assistance or reach out may result in quite a windfall for you, and it's all because of goodwill. I have to admit, I didn't do this PowerPoint. They did it for me, so I'm not exactly sure what's on what. But I invest in people in my firm. We are one of the few firms, I'm sad to say, we're trying to get people in the bar associations to get into this and do this, is we do internships, not for law students, but for undergrads. And that's important to me, because law students are already on the track. They know what they want to do. They're going to law school. They're going to graduate, and they're going to be a lawyer. Whether they practice what I do, which is a litigator, which out of the entire profession, we make up about 10% of all lawyers. So we're the few, not the many, although we're the more notorious, I should say. Anytime there's a bad case on TV, yes, there was a defense attorney and a prosecutor there. But other than that, there's many, many, many areas in the law that you can pursue. So why the undergrads? Well, one, we find them that they are hungry for knowledge. They want to know, is this something that I want to pursue before I invest in such an expensive education, loans, scholarships, and it is a little bit of torture. But do I want to do this to myself? And by coming to our office, our internships, it's not sitting at a photocopier just photocopying papers and filing things away. We actually have them shadow us to court. We have them draft motions with us. We show them how. We improve their writing skills, because believe it or not, writing skills is always open for improvement. And we work on it, and they are with us for credit. We work with the universities to give them credit, so they're not volunteering for nothing. And so because they're volunteering for credit, and they're doing it for school, and they're doing it to see if that's something they want to do in the future, I can't tell you how many people have said, I can't tell you how much this helped me for determining what I want to do and how to act, how to deal with adversity, how to know what are the steps to take if there's a problem, not just to be overcome by the problem, but how to attack it, find the way to solve it, and solve it. So the problem-solving aspect has been really advantageous for them, whether they pursued law school or not. I have to say more than half have gone to law school, so I'm hoping we had a positive effect. But so we invest in our folks. We also invest in our lawyers. We are a small firm, and I believe if you have kids and you get a call and you have to go pick up your kid because it's sick, I'm not going to give you a hard time. That's just adding upon the injury of having to leave. And my lawyers are good lawyers, and they know and they get their work done, whether it's 9 to 5 or not, doesn't matter. They get it done. So they have my support that when they have to do that, they can. So that investment in their family and in their persons is important, because that will encourage loyalty. I can trust them with the deposits. It inspires them to also help out when help is needed, and you're not going to be able to compensate them necessarily for that help. It makes them invested in the firm. They feel like they are part and own part of that firm. They're invested in it. One of the things that, well, this is I already covered this. This is improving your skills, your leadership ability, and optimism. You don't want to be depressed at work, even if you are. Fake it. Smile. Believe in yourself. Believe in your services or your product. Believe in what you're doing long term. Because if you don't believe in it, all you're going to do is begin to down that slippery slope to failure. And you don't want to fail. Too many people are invested in you if you're in small business, and you really want to be part of something good. So if you're getting down, if it's not working out or something's frustrating you, go to the small business associations, go to other associations, talk to a friend, talk to the customers and the clients, say, what could we do different? What could we do better? Let's inspire ourselves. And if you have to take everyone to dinner and have a couple of margaritas and inspire yourselves to say, tomorrow we're going to hit the ground running, because that's what's important. Optimism will get you a lot further than, crying about, how hard it is. And being Latinos, it is hard. They will discriminate against you. They will treat you badly. They will do whatever they can. And this is not even just for Latinos, for any minority. But you can persevere and you can win. You just got to believe in yourself. If nobody else will believe in you, believe in yourself and you can do it. We did it, and you can too. So believe in yourself.
Those are inspiring words. Thank you, Mariana. So believe in yourself.
Yes,
that's
sí se
something
puede,
very,
right?
very, exactly. My mom used to say, con una luz nadie se pierde.
Yeah,
So a
exactly.
little bit of light, we can actually be able to get further along. So, I'd love to be able to get us into a discussion where we, get folks from the audience to ask questions. When it comes to empowerment in a small business community, what's important is that we have to help you level the field. How are you going to be successful? How are the networks that we are going to go ahead and build? Giving back to the community, making sure that you're actually working with students and to be able to be role models. We don't have enough, I think, role models in our Hispanic community. So we need for us to be able to have that honest conversation and see what are your needs so we are able to help you along the way. These women are pioneers. I mean, software, law, I did clean tech and energy. I mean, I was a token Hispanic and 10 boards for energy. So I needed to make sure that we come back and give back to the community. So I'd like to open it up to discussion. Please feel free to stand up and ask questions. And let's see, who's going to go first? Great, please, sir.
Cesar Lopez, Director of Lending with the Latino Economic Development Center and SBA micro-lending operation here in Washington. We provide small loans to clients that cannot get access to the traditional financial sector. So we are very small. And last year we grew 70%. And we knew that most of our clients are immigrants, are Latinos, are minorities. And they cannot get a credit because sometimes they don't have a credit score, they are new in the country, or sometimes they don't know what's a credit score. They don't know the system, they don't have access to the system, and they don't have the language capability, but they want to work very hard. And we are grateful of the SBA support. They are providing some funding for our, but at the same time, sometimes it's a challenge to work with the government and with all the report we have. And especially we have the challenge to the requirement that we need to provide post-loan technical assistance. And we work with the clients and we be sure they have a business plan and we prepare well to start a business and we're giving the loan. But after they're giving the loan, they are really hard working and they are really busy working in the business. And it's difficult for us to provide post-loan technical assistance because after you are giving the loan, there is no more incentive to come back to us to get the training. So it's any way that the SBA or in your experience, how we can help with this barrier with the Latino community has, the language barrier, the potential problems with leading with the financial sector. And what's your recommendation?
Okay. So micro-lending is very helpful when you're just getting started, like you mentioned, and I think that you're right, the technical assistance that you're required to give as part of that program, it's hard to maintain that going forward after the person's happy and goes away. I think that there's a couple of things. One is that there are other programs for lending, but I don't think that borrowing money is the way to go in the long run. I think that the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, for example, would work well with your organization, the Latino Economic Development, to do that transition to a different level of businesses. So how do we deal with a population that maybe has language difficulties? Well, when you're in business with a lot of different customers, right? Many of them speak Spanish, but many of them don't. So I think that what we have to do is we have to teach our businesses that just because you're the person who started the business, you're not necessarily the one who's going to do all the jobs in the business. And I think the importance of differentiating between wanting to be flying solo and being an independent worker versus building a business, I think that's something that people need to learn. And sustaining a business has always been one of my passions, to try to have programs to sustain small businesses is very important. How do we teach people that they need to get right partners in to help them grow the business? I think that's what you...
I agree. In outreach, lots of the nonprofit organizations do outreach for the new businesses starting out, to give them an idea, get your taxes done, file your taxes, and delegating. I mean, I'm a lawyer, I'm not an accountant. I can't add to save my life, so I hire an accountant to do my taxes and to make sure that, they're helping me out. I share with them my plan, my 5-year plan, and then when I renewed it, where I wanted to go, how I wanted to go, what I wanted to invest. Computers need to be updated, software licenses need to be done, and going from one office to having 3 offices. So all of that, I picked other people's brains. I talked to people and figured out how best to do this, because just because I went to law school doesn't mean I know how to do it. A lot of people think, oh, I went to business school, I know everything about business, but maybe they don't know enough about accounting or the lending practices, banking, So that's why those associations, the small business associations, are really important. But when you have them coming for the micro lending, I think they should have to take away with them the information and everything that they need to go and tell them. Don't just put it in a drawer and close it and forget about it. Really go over it. And if you can't, if there's a language barrier, you're having difficulty, find someone that you trust that can. And do that, because if you're on the ball and you're doing things well, then you have the opportunity in the future for doing the regular loans or doing other things, partnerships, whatever it is that will help your growth, because growing too fast can be as dangerous as not growing at all. So there really is a timing issue that really needs to be looked at and taken into consideration when you're in business.
And giving back is really important.
Right.
And I don't only mean from a networking. Accelerators is a great model. We've actually put in the president's budget for 2014 funding for us to look at accelerator models, incubators, because it's that valley of death. We give them funding, and then where do you go from there? Where do you have office space? Do you have investment, tiny investment, where you're working with it? Accelerator model, something that in our community hasn't been very predominant. It's been happening in California and Boston and other places, but I think that would be something that we could talk about more. And I just opened up a women business center here a few months ago where we're thinking about that concept and using what we have as tools in a more proactive and, of course, efficient way. We need to look at the measurements where taxpayers' dollars are going. Right. Next one, please come up.
Thank you both for being here today. I appreciate your time. My name is Sarah Burnett. I'm the Executive Director of the Corporate Volunteer Council of Montgomery County, and I wanted to ask what advice or experience you as business leaders of skilled and diverse workforces might have on how to engage employees as volunteers in the community where they live and work, and where you are building an identity as a community member.
How to encourage employees to go and volunteer? Well, the best way I know how to encourage employees to go and volunteer is to do it yourself. So as a business owner, if you are volunteering and you're reaching out to the community, generally your staff will say, well, first they'll go into this, why are they doing that, And eventually they will say, well, and especially if you invite them to come along, and sometimes they'll say, well, my boss asked me, I guess I'll have to go. And then they pretty much, then they start realizing that this is an important factor in their growth. So I would think that by example.
Leadership is all. If you set the tone, everyone will follow. So we do a lot of volunteer work. We make our everybody does it without my having to say you're going to do it. We volunteer, we take cases pro bono, we go to different events, many times that are non-lawyer events, that they want us to set up a table and give free advice, you know, through different populations with different issues, whether it's housing or anything else. And so we go, and we find it very fulfilling. And I think that the way to best to do it is for the employees to feel fulfilled, that they're giving back to the community, and that it's in a positive experience. I even make my interns go as well. And mostly, you know, maybe to help us out with the clipboard and the sign up, and then talking to people. I think the biggest thing about that is when you talk to the community, engage the individual, and you feel what they're talking about in their situations, you really get an appreciation for why it's so important to volunteer and be there.
Thanks.
Thank you. Excellent question. Yes?
Hello, and thank you for being here. My name is Elizabeth Mattori. I'm actually a candidate for state delegate, actually, in Maryland. And a couple questions. In your perspective, what can the state do to help not only grow companies, but have them stay here in Montgomery County?
The state or the county?
The state specifically, particularly for someone running for a candidate.
All right, what can the state do?
Yeah.
There's a state MBE program that I think you need to be looking at and supporting. I think that's very important. That's a Minority Business Enterprise program. I think it's the kind of program that has to be re-voted on by the state on a regular basis, and every time it comes up, there's a whole bunch of people who don't want it to be there. Because quite frankly, if you have minority small business programs, it takes away some share of the work that larger businesses would get. So there's a little bit of a tug of war there. Even though it sounds really nice to have minority business, you have to fight for it. The other thing is the state also votes on the WSSC, which is the Washington Suburban Sanitation Committee. Is that right? Commission. The state votes that minority program in, and it goes into sunset mode, and you have to support it because it's one of the best models that we have in the state for a minority small business program. So I think getting to know these things, getting to know what's happening with the Governor's Office for Minority Affairs is important. And also encouraging small businesses to come and testify what their hardships are, what their obstacles are. I served on the Governor's Small Business Task Force. We pushed to have a small business committee installed. I think it's running. I don't know. I don't hear too much about it.
I was there a couple months ago.
Yeah, so it is, okay. So focusing on the programs that are going to make a small business sustainable is very important. And engaging the dialogue between financial institutions and small businesses, large business and small business, and definitely the state DBM and the Department of Budget and Management, and small business is important.
She pretty much covered.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yes, sir.
Hi, thanks for coming. My name is Dennis LeBoy. I come from a different perspective. I come from two different angles. I've been a 20-year government employee with Department of Homeland Security as a federal agent, but I have a tremendous amount of love for music. Growing up in New York City, I grew up during the hip-hop era, producing music and all kinds of music. Early on, I realized that this was a unique situation that I'm in working for the government, but having this love of music, producing, and hip hop and everything else. Trying to grow my business, I realized that early on at a young age, I wasn't able to get the business loans. Didn't have collateral, didn't have the resources. So I kept getting turned down. Through odd and end business deals that I did with people, I was able to pretty much build my own recording studio, state of the art, and things of that nature. So I was able to start to do other things. Then I started realizing, well, I should try to align myself, like you were saying, with the federal government. I quickly learned that I couldn't do that because of the conflict of interest, since I'm a federal government employee.
Yeah.
So here I am with all this time and effort and money that I put into trying to build a business, and have done nothing, could do nothing with it. So I started realizing that I need to try to attach myself to other businesses, things of that nature. As a Puerto Rican American, I realized that the Latin community in general doesn't get these opportunities. So I want to know, how is it that I can better align myself with people or organizations in other countries where I can maybe use the resources I have to help these businesses grow, which in turn will help me grow. And how do you guys think that I could better align myself with some of these businesses?
Okay, so I'll tell you that in the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, we have a couple of people who have studios, recording studios and music, and certainly we could help you hook up with those folks. I'll also say that there has been a lot of outreach from some Latin American countries, and I'm going to particularly mention Peru and Colombia, those have been more active, and El Salvador certainly has reached out, in Mexico. And they have reached out because they want to have, because of the free trade agreement is one thing. But the other thing is that trying to connect businesses from there to here, right? And I think there might be some interest in that way. You'd have to talk about what kind of model you would want to have in terms of your business connections and how you would want to use music in that respect. Understand your business is about music, right? Production.
Are you still a federal employee?
Yeah, I'm currently work with Department of Security.
You still, so you're current,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
My advice to you would be to form a company and put someone else in charge in the company
Yeah.
and create that Chinese wall.
I thought
So
about that.
you are, working for the federal government, and then use the studio that you've invested in and built up to do what Carmen is saying, to form those relationships, because there is a difference between recording outside of the U.S. and recording within the U.S.
Right.
And that's a really big advantage. And so your company could do it as a profit model where you charge to use the studio, or you can do it as something of an investment of promoting new artists and letting volunteers come in and use the studio, and they record and try to get their music out there and stuff like that. And eventually, you're going to have to decide whether you want to remain in the federal government as an agent or if you're going to exit the federal government. And thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you very much. We don't just do music. We do everything from voiceovers for. We can do movie scores, everything.
Okay.
We do everything. Commercials for businesses that need it. Anything's there. But thank you.
You just got to create that separation so that you don't become a conflict of interest issue. There is a process in the federal government where if it's so far removed from what you're doing that you can ask for an exception, and you have to disclose everything, and they'll decide whether they will accept it or not.
Yeah, I've done that.
And they denied it?
No. Actually, it started off negatively, but it turned positive.
Oh, okay.
Good.
You know, they
you
actually questioned me on my business, and but everything came out positive. So thanks.
Well,
Thank
good
you for
luck.
that.
Thanks.
And just to know, I appreciate that, especially because if you look at the demographics for Latin America, 25% of folks in Mexico, for example, are under 25 years old. And they're the ones who are leapfrogging. They're the ones who are actually looking at, they went from a landline to a smartphone, to a tablet. They're the ones who are actually creating the applications that we can actually compete with and be able to bring into this market.
Right.
So you have a tremendous opportunity there to start looking at other markets for music and many other things.
Commercials, movies,
It's not all mariachi music that we have in Latin America. También rock en español. Please go ahead.
Carmen, Mariana, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here today. I'm Daniel Parra, the new director of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce in Montgomery County. And I'm very excited to be here with you. And I would like to take this opportunity because the conclusions of this conference are going to be all over the place, not just in Montgomery County. What is the best advice for small business owners or business owners in general? What stage in your business you found the need to 3 words: networking, planning, and of course, enjoy your business?
Do you want to go first?
At what stage in the company? From day
Yes.
one.
Actually, before that, right?
Yeah, right.
I'm not leading your answers, but
I think you need those things from day one. I think one of the things that I did when I was getting my business going, I didn't have the broad range of organizations that came to me and said, hey, you know, we'll help you out. I had SBA. SBA came over and said, hey, we're here, come over. I had the library, right? And then you're always very shy and very timid when you start your business. You're going, what am I going to do at SBA? Well, what am I going to tell them, you know?
I don't understand why we're so shy.
Yeah,
We're
right?
shy
Yeah.
at home. We're shy when it comes outside. Yeah.
It's all very intimidating sometimes. So what I started doing, and it was hard for me to know where to go network. I'm hoping today they'll be able to call you at the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and know about all your networks, which I know you're doing a lot of now. And what I did do is I looked at the directory of businesses, and I found businesses that were similar to what I was doing. And I started calling them up and saying I was a business getting going, and I wanted to speak to the president of the company. And sometimes they let me talk to the president, and I set up an appointment, and I went and asked them, what do you think are your challenges? What kinds of things should I expect? What were the things that you ran into that you didn't know how to handle, and what kind of advice could you give me? So I think that was very helpful for me to do. In the networking, I think I can, you know, probably see how you can meet more people that way. I took the phone book, and now you don't have the same kind of phone book. But, you know, one of the things that I learned is one guy I remember, he was Crabs Branch Road around here, and he had a scientific company, and he said one of the most important lessons I learned is that growth of a business requires capital. So when you grow a business, it requires that you have money to grow the business. And when you get your check, it doesn't mean you get to spend it. And so that was one of the very fundamental lessons that I learned. But it was, your question was, do you need these things from the start? Yeah, you do. And planning is the one that you leave behind the most often. But it's very important as well.
You really have to have a roadmap, even before you start. When I started, everyone said, no, you can't do it. Don't open your own firm. It's going to be incredibly difficult. You're not going to have any clients. You're going to starve. Everybody else hangs out their shingle and they starve. And so the more they said no, the more I thought, why not, right? So I started looking at the different firms, you know, so I would say to people, look at businesses similar to yours and see what works and what doesn't work. You know, I knew I needed my client base. I had a client base, so that was something I could check off. I needed money to be able to pay for the first, you know, couple of months. I wanted to make sure in case, you know, nobody called. I had the rent, I had, you know, the expenses covered for 4 months at least, and some extra money in the bank. I wanted to make sure I had the right location, you know, before I even remotely let out, you know, the cat out of the bag that I was, you know, going on my own. And when I did go out on my own, the one thing that Carmen says is very, very true. Your plan gets kind of thrown out the window very quickly because, you know, it starts working, you get the money coming in, and you think, well, I'll just keep doing this. This is what but you have to actually think about, you know, what happens as it grows. Do you need more employees? What kind of employees? Does your space support that? Can I get a nice space that I knew I could grow in or not, but I could afford? You know, so that right away I didn't have to go quickly looking for another place because leases have period of time you have to comply with. Know the rules, you know, if you're going to sign a lease, if you're going to get a loan, if you're going to have anything where you have to answer to somebody else. And then make yourself answer to yourself. Did I do the QuickBooks? Did I put did I photocopy the checks, the contracts? Do I have the folder? Do I have my documentation ready? You know, and my thought was like, if the IRS knocks on my door tomorrow, can I be audited, you know, and not die? You know, yes. So you have to make sure you maintain your documentation and in some order. I can't tell you how many clients come in for a breach of contract and they bring half the contract. They don't have the payments. They don't have a lot, you know, and then so my job starts being 1, helping them out with their case, but 2, getting them organized, telling them you need to have your documents in order. You need to keep them for at least 7 years. You know, you need to have storage to maintain these things and, you know, get the equipment now with technology to scan and keep it and be organized. So, you know, for me, when you're going to go into business, think of all the worst case scenarios and plan for them before you start, because so many businesses fail because they're all looking at the bright side. We're going to make a lot of money. It's going to be a huge success, and then it doesn't happen, what's your plan? You got to have an exit plan, you know?
So I want to add something, because I think you're remarkable that you planned it all out.
Well, I'm a worst case scenario girl.
So
I believe in zombies. How about everybody else?
So I worked for a very established company, and I've been promoted very fast, and suddenly I was going to have my first child, and I had been married for 5 years, and my husband said, well, I didn't think you wanted children.
Oops.
So I ended up finding myself in a situation where I was going to be a mom, where the business where I was at, they didn't take too kindly to very pregnant women. And I had to decide what I was going to do next. As what I was looking at is that suddenly finding myself as a single mom. This is my husband was going to be leaving, and he left shortly thereafter. So I decided to start into business because I needed to have some income. It's not reliable income, but some income, and that I needed to have some flexibility in time, and I needed to be able to, be able to have my baby to come along. So I didn't have the opportunity to think and plan that much. So when you do that, you're thinking, how do I get the money and how do I do it? But then you have to be very agile, you have to be very quick, and
Flexible.
you have to learn. I mean, you
Yeah,
have to be very flexible. So I'm just saying this because some people didn't have a choice.
No. I mean, but you
once
can
you do
plan.
it,
Make sure
yeah.
that the staff you have is reliable staff. If you have to be out because
Right.
of a health issue, whether it's a baby or an illness or
something
whatever,
happened,
make sure
yeah.
you've got the right people that you can trust them. That's what your leadership and your inspiration to your employees is so important, because you don't want to think about your employees as, I can't trust that guy. You want to be able to say, I know if I miss 3 days, they've got it covered.
So definitely plan. I mean, you
Yeah.
can start like that, like in some kind of a major crisis, but then, regroup and plan it out. So
There's no hurdle that
Definitely.
cannot be overcome. It's
Yeah.
my belief. That's my optimism. I can fix anything. I may not like how it gets fixed. Let me be honest with you. Some things are hard to swallow, but you can do it.
Thank you so much for that question. Excellent question. And I just want to thank everyone for being here today. I appreciate all the wonderful questions. We're here. Anything you need, just follow up again with us. My email and I think all your contact information will be available. Again, we're here to serve you. We're here to set up, ways that we can bring role models to the table for you to learn from. So again, thank you for being here. Mil gracias. Que tengan una excelente semana. And this is the closing of our session. Thank you
so much.